Today we'll be doing the cell cycle checkpoints. We have understood the transition of the stages through which a cell passes, and we have studied the important regulators that helps the passage of a cell from M to G1 to S to G2. Two important regulators that play an important role during this checkpoint is, if you remember, we have this cyclin D CDK4/6 complex and cyclin E CDK2 complex. So these two complexes are important in relevance to the checkpoint regulators. Now, when we are talking about cell cycle checkpoints, there are four kinds of cell cycle checkpoints that are observed. The first one is the intra-S phase checkpoint, where we see that this particular enzyme activity is blocked by activating a CDK checkpoint kinase in the replication forks. So we have this intra-S phase checkpoint which blocks the activity of CD25C enzyme. Then we have the spindle assembly checkpoint that blocks anaphase initiation. Since we'll be getting into the details of spindle assembly checkpoint, I'm not discussing these enzymes right now. Then we have the spindle position checkpoint. The spindle position checkpoint is maintained, and if there is any anomaly, then the telophase is blocked by inhibiting this particular phosphatase, which is induced by the activation of B-type cyclin. And finally, this is the DNA damage checkpoint. If any form of DNA damage is observed during replication, post-replication, then obviously the cell is blocked from proceeding to the next stage. And the block initiation or progression of DNA replication in response to DNA damage invariably involves this category of enzyme, the ATM-ATR kinases, the P53 transcription factor, the P21 cyclin inhibitor, and the checkpoint kinase 1 and 2 that inhibits the enzyme CDC25A. For our syllabus will restrict to these two particular checkpoints, the spindle assembly checkpoint and the DNA damage checkpoint. Today, I'll be starting with the DNA damage checkpoint. This is a very simplified picture of the DNA damage checkpoints that are present in almost all the stages of cell cycle. You can see there is a DNA damage checkpoint at G1, there is a DNA damage checkpoint at S, there is an unreplicated or DNA damage checkpoint at G2, and in M phase, there is a checkpoint which assures that the chromosomal alignment during mitotic spindle formation is proper or not. So this is the different checkpoints operative in the different stages of the cell cycle. Just to keep it in mind that the intra-S phase checkpoint looks into unreplicated or damaged DNA. And in the G2 checkpoint also we see this is unreplicated or damaged DNA. So now move into the DNA damage checkpoints. Now look at this picture on the left side. The moment there is DNA damage, and if the cell responds to the DNA damage, and if the DNA damage is perceived prior to the crossing of the restriction point, then there is G1 arrest. As I just now showed you that the DNA damage checkpoints are available in almost all cell stages. So if there is a DNA damage in G1, then we have a G1 arrest. If there is a DNA damage or incomplete replication, then again there's arrest at S phase. If DNA damage is perceived of the replicated DNA, because in the S phase the DNA has just replicated. So if any sort of DNA damage is perceived in G2, then there's arrest at G2. And in mitosis, if the spindle attachment is not proper, then also we have arrest at mitosis. So you can see these checkpoints ensure that the DNA is not damaged, and these checkpoints also ensure, specifically the mitotic checkpoints, ensure that the spindle alignment is also proper. Whenever there is a damage in the DNA, as you can see in this particular picture, it has been shown, whenever there is a damage in the DNA, that damage is sensed. So the first part is the damage is detected. So detection of the damage occurs, followed by sensing of this damage by certain sensors. The moment the damage is sensed by certain proteins or sensors, then automatically a downstream signaling cascade starts and the message reaches the genes of the target proteins, and the target proteins are inhibited, and as a result the cell is prohibited from entering the next stage. So this phenomena might happen in S, this phenomena might happen in G2, this phenomena might happen in G1. So at the outset, the damage was detected, then there are sensor molecules which sense it, and then they start a signaling cascade, finally which culminates in the activation of those genes which will block the passage of the cell from the stage in which the damage has been detected to the next one. To keep it in mind, I'm once more recapitulating that the enzymes present in DNA damages are kinases. Remember, whenever we are talking about kinases, the functional property of the kinases is that they activate their substrate by binding, by adding a phosphate group to their substrate. So as I was talking about these DNA damage checkpoints, they play a critical role in maintaining the integrity of the genome. These checkpoints, once more to repeat, are operative in G1, S and G2 phases of the cell cycle. They allow time for the damaged DNA to be repaired, and then the cell division proceeds. Now, whenever we are talking about DNA damage, and if there is a DNA damage, then cell cycle is mediated by two related protein kinase. Name suggests that these are kinases, these are enzymes which can phosphorylate its substrate and thereby activate or inactivate it. So these two related protein kinases are designated as ATM, as you can see in the picture, and ATR, which are activated in response to DNA damage. ATM and ATR, once activated, they activate a signaling pathway that leads, depending on the severity of the damage, that might lead to cell cycle arrest and repair. And in some cases, if the severity of the DNA damage is high, then that might lead to programmed cell death or apoptosis. Now, the ATM protein was discovered specifically by a mutation in the gene encoding for ATM, and ATM mutants are responsible for a disease known as ataxia telangiectasia. So let's not get in the details of the nomenclature. For our understanding, if you look into the picture, you can see that the double-stranded breaks are detected and sensed by the ATM kinase, and the single-stranded unreplicated DNA are sensed by the ATR kinases. In either cases, as you can see, once the ATM and the ATR kinases are activated in complex of protein that recognize DNA damage, you can see this is a complex of protein that is recognizing the DNA damage. And once they are activated there, the ATR and the ATM then phosphorylate and activate CHK1, checkpoint kinase 1 and checkpoint protein kinase 2. So ATR activates checkpoint protein kinase 1, ATM activates checkpoint protein kinase 2. And you can see in this particular cases, phosphate has been added to CDC25, and thus they inhibit the action of this particular enzyme, which is CDC25 protein phosphatases. There are two kinds of CDC25 phosphatases. Remember, this is a phosphatase, this is a kinase. When the enzyme is a phosphatase, it removes phosphate. So CHK1 and CHK2 add a phosphate and inhibit the function of the CDC25 phosphatases. Once again, there are two categories of CDC25 phosphatases. One is the CDC25A and the other is the CDC25C. Just to recapitulate what we studied yesterday, if you look, since we studied CDC25 yesterday, I just wanted to show you that picture of MPF. And if you remember, you can see where CDC25 is sitting. So, in response to DNA damage, if the CDC25 member is phosphorylated, that is, this enzyme is inactivated, then this enzyme will not be able to perform this function. The final function of dephosphorylation of the inhibitory phosphates, as a result of which MPF was activated. So you can relate now that if there is a DNA damage, and as we saw, either ATR or ATM is activated, and the ATM or the ATR phosphorylate the checkpoint kinase 1 or 2, which in turn phosphorylate the CDC25 phosphatase, thereby rendering it inactive. So inactivating this enzyme will automatically bring a halt in the total activation of MPF, and the cell will not be able to enter mitosis. I showed you this picture just to make you relate that how a checkpoint kinase controls a specific enzyme in this particular cycle, thereby halting the progression of activating the MPF. So we understood one fact, that be it either a single-stranded or unreplicated DNA damage or a double-stranded DNA damage, downstream the checkpoint kinases 1 and 2 are activated, which in turn deactivate the phosphatase CDC25. Now let's look into this pathway in a bit detail, just keeping in mind that we'll just follow the proteins present in the pathway. As again you are seeing that there is a DNA damage. This DNA damage has been sensed by ATR or ATM, depending on whether it is a double-stranded or a single-stranded damage. And then we are seeing the activation of the checkpoint kinases, as in the earlier picture I told you. So CHK1 or CHK2 are activated in the process. Once CHK1 or CHK2 are activated in the process, you can see two pathways are being opted by these enzymes. In the first pathway, which is, see, both of them can induce the production of any of the two pathways. So let us look into the first pathway, that is opted by the checkpoint kinase 1. So checkpoint kinase 1 can induce this pathway and this pathway. Now let's look at the pathway. It is inactivating a member of the CDC25, that is CDC25A. As a result of inactivation of CDC25, this enzyme is being degraded. It's broken down into fragments. As you can see, it has been written here, it is proteolyzed. So the moment CDC25A is fragmented, it is proteolyzed, it is non-functional. Once we get a non-functional CDC25A, and it's seen that CDK2 cyclin E remains inactive, because CDC25A has a role in activating cyclin E CDK2 complexes. So CDK2 cyclin E remains inactive. Since we have an inactive CDK2 cyclin E complexes, so the cell halts at G1. The cell does not proceed to the S phase. So this is one category of arrest. And another category of arrest is seen by in the next side. Both CHK1 and CHK2 can activate a protein which is P53. This is a very famous transcription factor which is present in our cytoplasm. But this particular protein is synthesized constitutively and is also degraded very soon. P53 is always present in our cytoplasm. It is synthesized very quickly and also degraded very quickly. Now, whenever there is a sensing of this DNA damage, P53 is stabilized. You can see that the kinases have added phosphates to the P53 protein, and the P53 protein's presence is stabilized in the cytoplasm. As I said, P53 is a transcription factor. Since you have already studied replication, transcription, and translation, and if you remember eukaryotic transcription, you can remember that there are a number of transcription factors that help the RNA polymerase to sit at the promoter and start transcription. So P53 is one such transcription factor, which not only controls one gene, it controls multiple genes. It is a transcription factor for quite a number of genes. One such gene is P21. So the moment P53 is activated, it is phosphorylated, it is stabilized, and then it helps in transcription of, it moves into the nucleus and it helps in transcription of the P21 gene. As a result of enhanced transcription of the P21 gene, you can see P21 product is being produced. P21 is also inhibitor for the CDK2 cyclin E complex. So it can also bind and inhibit CDK2 cyclin E complex. And as a result, again in this case, cell cycle arrest has been induced. So you can see that whenever a DNA damage is sensed, either by ATM or ATR, and accordingly, the downstream checkpoint kinases are activated, the output is that in both cases, we are seeing that there is an arrest. In this case, they have shown you the arrest is in G1. So initially, the cell is brought to a halt. Next comes the question that whether the amount of DNA damage can be repaired or cannot be repaired. That is a question that comes next. I'll come to that later on. So this is another picture of the ATM protein activating the CH2 kinase, stabilizing the P53, the P53 acting as a transcription factor for P21 mRNA, synthesis of P21 protein, and we are seeing that cyclin E CDK2 complexes are inhibited. Now, let us just shift our story to P53, because as I said, it is one of the very vital proteins present in the cell, and this particular protein has this ability to decide whether the cell can be kept in an arrest state and the DNA be repaired, or whether the cell will be induced to go for death. So this decision, this vital decision is made by P53. Again, as we start the story with DNA damage, you can see ATM-ATR activation, kinase activation, CHK1/2 kinase activation. I said that P53 is constitutively synthesized and the protein is present in our cytoplasm. But the protein is complexed with another protein which is known as MDM2. Because as you can understand, P53 is a sentinel protein. It acts like a guardian. You cannot allow such a protein which has so much important function in maintaining the genome's integrity to remain all alone by itself. So whenever we have the production of P53 in the cytoplasm, the P53 is not left alone, but is kept in complex with MDM2, and if there is no need of P53 at that given moment, the P53 is degraded. However, whenever there is a DNA damage, an upstream signaling, ATM-ATR activated, CHK1, CHK2 activated, the signal reaches the MDM2 P53 complex. And P53 is phosphorylated. The moment P53 is phosphorylated, it cannot remain bound to MDM2, so it frees itself from MDM2 and it becomes stable. This is stable, active P53. This stable active p53, as I said, now acts as a transcription factor. It binds to the promoter of p21. It facilitates the binding of the other polymers and other proteins to the promoter of p21, and the synthesis of p21 mRNA is taking place, and the p21 mRNA then goes and inhibits the cyclin E CDK2 complex. Once we have understood the cascade of p53 activation, for now we'll skip the picture on the right side. And thus this is further entering into the arena of p53. It's just repetition of what I said till now. This is a normal cell, and you can see in the normal cell, the MDM2 p53 remains complex, and the MDM2 stimulates the degradation of p53. So in normal condition, the cellular levels of p53 are low. The moment there is a DNA damage, the message is perceived, p53 MDM2 phosphorylated, stabilization of p53, that is p53 stabilized. It is not allowed to degrade it. It activates a downstream gene, which is the WAF1, which is the gene for p21. p21 product is produced. The p21 can go and bind to cyclin E CDK2 complex, or interestingly, it can also inhibit the cyclin D CDK4 complex. In either or case, the arrest is at G1. So remember that p53 has its action in the G1 stage. Now coming to the duality of p53, I said that p53 has this basic property by which its signaling can decide whether I just arrest the cell, repair the DNA, send it back to cell cycle, or if the damage is grave enough, I arrest the cell and ask the cell to die. Now this control is maintained by p53. Now let's see how that is done at the molecular level. See, there is a DNA damage. We are now familiar with the name of the proteins. ATM, ATR activated. If you remember, the checkpoint kinases CHK1, CHK2 are activated. Phosphorylation of p53 is taking place, and p53 is stabilized. So stabilization of p53 has taken place as a result of a stimuli that has been perceived, which is DNA damage. Depending on the severity of the DNA damage, p53 can activate, as I said, p53 is a transcription factor for a number of genes. p53 can activate genes whose product will cause cell cycle arrest, or p53 can activate genes whose product will cause cell death. So if p53 acts as a transcriptional activator of a gene, that is WAF1, which produces p21 product, it will act as an inhibitor for the CDK, cyclin D CDK4/6 complex, or the cyclin E CDK2 complex. In either case, we are getting cell cycle arrest. So this is p21 mediated cell cycle arrest. But if the amount of DNA damage is severe enough that the cell needs to die, then p53 activates a gene which is known as PUMA. As you can see, so when the DNA damage cannot be repaired, p53 then activates genes that codes for proteins which will trigger cell death, and one such key protein is the PUMA. Once PUMA is activated, it in turn inhibits proteins of the family of BCL2. This is another protein. Now, BCL2 family of proteins helps in cellular survival. If they are present in high number, the cell will survive. So the moment p53 activates PUMA, PUMA expression starts, PUMA will inhibit the BCL2 survival proteins. So the cellular survival protein starts decreasing, as a result of which the cell will understand that the instruction that has come is to die, and accordingly this cellular death program will start within the cell. So from this particular chart, as we walked through the chart, just a second, we understood that once P53 is stabilized, it can lead to cell cycle arrest via the production of P21, or it can lead to cell death via the production or the expression of PUMA. Thus, since P53 is sitting at a pivotal point where its expression and accordingly its downstream activation might lead to arrest or death. Hence, P53 is also known as the guardian of the genome. Your genome means your DNA. The whole P53 cascade started only with your damage of the DNA. That means the genome has been compromised. Since the genome has been compromised, P53 was activated. Depending on how much damage that has happened to DNA, P53's expression decides whether a repair can be done or whether I have to put the cell to death. And as I showed you, that P53 can simultaneously but mutually exclusive. When this pathway is switched on, this is switched off, vice versa. If this is switched on, then this is switched off. So it chooses in either of one, it chooses between the two pathways. One pathway leads to arrest and the other pathway leads to death. So it chooses either one of the two pathways, and thus its expression sort of decides that after arrest, whether the cell will be repaired and allowed to enter cell cycle, or after arrest, whether the cell will die a apoptotic death. This picture also emphasizes the function of P53 as now the number of proteins, I've said them again and again, and now you can relate the name of the proteins. P53, high expression of P21, you can see cyclin D CDK complex can be inhibited. The moment cyclin D CDK complex is inhibited, RB is not phosphorylated. Since RB is not phosphorylated, E2F is not free. Since E2F is not free, we are getting cell cycle arrest. So that is the molecular cascade. And here, as I said, P53 is a transcriptional activator of a number of genes. In the previous picture, I told you about one gene that was PUMA. P53 is also the transcriptional activator of BAX, which is a pro-apoptotic gene, a gene that facilitates death. Whenever there is the expression of this protein in the cell, what happens? This protein sits on the membrane of the mitochondria, BAX, they form, sits on the membrane of mitochondria and they form pores on the mitochondria, this BAX protein. The moment pores are formed on the mitochondria, you can understand that mitochondria is the main cellular respiratory organelle of the cell. If the outer membrane has small pores on them, automatically the permeability of the outer membrane is compromised. So mitochondria of the cell is compromised. The moment mitochondria is compromised, the cell proceeds for death. So this is why P53 in other words is also known as the guardian of the genome. And I'll stop my class today here.